Hello everyone, and welcome to this special episode of On Brand in honor of International Women's Day. Today we're bringing together leaders, changemakers, and pioneers from across our business and industry who are genuinely shifting the dial when it comes to driving positive change, diversity, and inclusion, gender balance through their activities, their movements, and their programs. My name is Scott, Social Impact Manager here at Dentsu Aegis Network, and I'm delighted to bring to you our show live from our beautiful studio here in London. So it's my pleasure to bring a really stellar lineup of guests today, friends and colleagues from across the industry, and we'll be talking about how to move past traditional hiring practices and power business with a diverse and sustainable emerging talent pool. Educational systems have not always kept pace with the changing pace of work, resulting in many employers saying that they cannot find enough workers with the skills that they need. 40% of employers said lack of skills was the main reason for entry-level job vacancies. 60% said that new graduates were not adequately prepared for the world of work. That's why we created the Code, which we'll be bringing up later on. The Code is an acronym for Creativity, Opportunity, Diversity, and Empowerment. It's running for about 4 years now, and we've reached over 12,000 students here in the UK. So over the next 30 minutes, you'll get to hear what our panel thinks. But before we get started, a few bits of housekeeping. We will be sharing the full recording afterwards and hosting on our Spotify podcast. This is a live Q&A on Facebook, so please submit any questions you have for our guests, and we will answer as many as possible. You can also follow along on Twitter with the hashtag OnBrand, and feel free to tweet us your questions there, and we'll respond to those as well. So, please get involved. But before we start, let me introduce you to my talented guests. So, Will, can you please tell us a bit about yourself?
Absolutely. So, firstly, thank you for inviting me. It's terrific to be here today. My name is Will. I'm the founder and managing director of MyKindaFuture, and we help people from a disadvantaged background get into work, and then we help them do well in work.
Excellent. So Alexis Jackson, tell us about yourself, please.
Thank you, Scott, and thank you, and it's lovely to meet you all today. So I work for a company called AVADO. I've worked within education, training, and the apprenticeship sector for the past 13 years. We believe in changing lives through learning. Predominantly, I'm working on the Creative Pioneers project for the past 6 years, which is around increasing diversity within the agency sector. And this is through the use of apprenticeships. So really putting the learner at the heart of everything that we do. I'm really excited to be here, and thank you for having me.
So are we. Huda, what can you tell us about yourself?
Yeah, thank you again for bringing me out here today and meeting everyone else. So I am actually a data analyst apprentice who working at iProspect here, so worked with Alexis here as well. And I am just like working in the paid social team. So during my time here, I've been able to attend IBM workshops and even like be on the Creative Pioneers panel at the IPA Awards. So that was really, really interesting. And just during my free time, I like enjoy traveling the world, photography, and like just building my shoe collection as well.
Awesome.
Nice.
Anisha, welcome.
Hi. Again, to echo everyone else, so really happy to be here. I am an account manager on the Mondelez account. I joined Carat last year, and my interest in social impact has kind of developed through joining Represent, which is the BAME network, brand new, which you'll be hearing about soon, and as a speaker on the Conversation Network podcast, which is all about empowering young women. And then in my day-to-day life, my current obsessions include watching Archer on repeat, putting Nando's peri-peri sauce on all my food, and painting, but really badly. And everyone makes fun of me for it.
Great, well, welcome everyone. And so like I mentioned, I'm Scott, leading social impact here in the UK. So that's looking at our impact on society, sustainability overall, the sustainability of our talent pipeline as well, because talent is our product. So if we are going to be doing the best work we can for our clients, we need to ensure that the people we have in the business are as diverse as possible, but then when they actually enter the business, they are empowered to have a voice and to make the changes that we need them to do for the benefit of our industry and for our clients. So, Welcome. Alexis, first to you, please. Can you explain a bit of what we mean by apprenticeships nowadays? Because there's still a perception by so many people that they're just for young people who didn't go to uni, and that's not the case.
Absolutely, and I think Huda will agree with me when I say that apprenticeships is no longer that taboo, and today it needs to be seen as an opportunity, and it's an opportunity for everyone, so not just young people, it's for you and I, it's also for employers, and it's also for the UK economy as well at the end of the day. So for young people coming through using the apprenticeship scheme, it's a foot in the door. So as you've said before, a lot of grads are coming out of university, they're not skilled and they're not ready for the workplace, whereas taking a different route such as an apprenticeship, you're there, you're earning your money, you've got no debt at the end of the day, and you've also got that opportunity to be able to progress and grow with those employers. Then on the other side of it, you've got the employers as well. So it's taking that opportunity to utilise what they have, to grow their own, to skill the workforce for skills that are needed for not just now, but also for the future as well. And then in turn, the bigger impact of that is the UK economy. So having a workforce of the future that will have that impact and drive productivity.
I mean, I was surprised to learn that you can receive actually degree-level apprenticeships. So it's a master's degree, not equivalent, but an actual master's degree at the end of it.
Absolutely. So that you don't have to go to university. You can get your degree or even your master's degree whilst you're at work.
I mean, so it can be still for young people, it can be a different path for them, but we can also use it for our existing workforce, or even people who maybe return after a sabbatical or maternity leave, as a way to keep relevant.
Absolutely. I mean, one of the hardest things, I mean, specifically for the reason why we're here today, International Women's Day. So looking at women returners after maternity. So a lot of the time, you've had a large period of time away from the workplace. It's scary to come back. So the opportunity there for those individuals is to be able to do a sidestep using the apprenticeship scheme, funded by the apprenticeship levy, to go into a brand new career pathway. I mean, what could be more exciting than that?
True, but also that aligns really well with one of our promises to our talent, is that sort of idea of diagonal moves, lateral moves, as opposed to that traditional career structure that's quite vertical.
Exactly.
Okay. More conversations we
Yeah.
had for sure around that. So Huda, over to you, please. So you've completed now 2 apprenticeships. So you did an apprenticeship before joining Dentsu, and then you're about 15 months in, or how many months in now?
So almost finished, just hitting the finish line right now. So just
Well
finishing
done.
in the end of May.
Yeah.
So I actually just finished 6th form and I went straight into work. So my mum told me, you're not going to be working, like you're not going to be staying at home, go into the workforce. So she was like, just do something. Like she actually put the apprenticeship ahead like for me. She said, just check it out, see what it is. And I just did that in my gap year. And I really enjoyed what I did. So I did it in digital marketing. It was just with a different agency, but it was really, really good. And they actually employed me after that. So I stayed with them just for like a year and a half after finishing my apprenticeship. And then I just wanted to take the next step up. So moving on to like a level 4, like with Dentsu, which they offered it for me. And ever since then, I've literally been here loving it, like enjoying the apprenticeship, been able to go out to do loads of different events and build on my skills as well. Like, for example, joining this panel as well. And it's just really good like to have that opportunity to not just have the skills of the apprenticeship as well, like actually the real life working environments as well as just going to different events, which I really enjoyed.
And I guess, what drew you to apprenticeships rather than the traditional, well, let's avoid using traditional, rather than the historic path of going to university? What drew you to it?
It was quite different for me. So coming from a family who everyone's been going to uni, it was like really hard for my like family to like accept it, saying that, can you not just go uni? That's like the safest option. And it was just because it was quite new when I finished school, and it was just me stepping into a different direction. And I was almost like a little experiment to see if it worked out for me. And I've got like a little sister who now wants to like go into that field as well. So for me, it like really worked well for me, just because I really enjoyed the fact that I get to work and actually have a skill as well as earning money. And exactly like Alexis said, I'm not in debt at the end of the day. Like I don't need to pay off my student loans. I don't need to go into that field. And it just looks really attractive as well to me. So I'm just building like on my career. I don't need to go into like the vertical like structure that you've already mentioned. I can go to different directions. I can actually just say, next step, I want to go into like a level 7 data like science role and get my master's from that. So just thinking of all the different opportunities that are laid out in front of me is just amazing to know that this is all free for me. It's just if I really want it, I can get it.
You've done brilliantly. Well done. And also, what a great role model, for people in the organisation, but actually just the wider community. You're a terrific role model.
I understand why they asked you to be an apprenticeship ambassador.
Yeah, absolutely.
Go to the Houses of Parliament. I mean, how cool is that?
Yeah, that was amazing. It was literally in the last month, I'm like, oh my God, yes, I'm definitely going to do that. So just so many opportunities that are being presented in front of me. I'm like, of course, I'm going to grab anything, like with both hands. Like,
go for it.
At the end of the day, I'm like still quite young. I'm still like at that period of my life where I'm still developing and like learning all these skills. I'm not going to say to anything new like that I can just accept.
Say yes, figure it out later.
Exactly.
Great advice.
And it's so good because I think, when I was a teenager, my parents, university was the only option.
Yeah.
Like, and anything else is out of the question. And that's not to say anything bad about their parenting. It's more just like that was the way things were, and like that's the way like we're being conditioned by society. And the fact that things are changing now, and that you actually took a stand, you were like, no, it's actually really, really inspiring.
Yeah, it took like me 2 years to like convince my dad that no, this was actually like a really good choice. And like now telling him about like what I'm doing right now, he's like, yeah, get your little sister on board. Like she doesn't want to go to uni either. So literally just not being a role model for like people out there is like for my actual family too. And like for different friends, they're like, I wish I took your path as well. Like seeing where you are today, and it's just like really inspiring as well. It's like, yes, thank you for saying this to me. Like I don't feel like I've done something wrong. Like, because at the end of the day, it's like it's completely different to like what other people have been doing, and it's just hard to like put yourself out there as well. So having done that, I'm like really impressed to see how far I've gone.
And what I really respect is that you have already understood that you can turn around and now bring other people along with you and share your experience to inspire others. So I really respect that. I guess as a bit of a follow-up, can you tell us a bit about the application and interviewing process to join Dentsu? Because we did try and do it a bit differently, so it'd be interesting to hear how it was for you.
I was thrown off because I thought, is that it? Like, I thought it was going to be a lot harder. So the first stage, it was like really cool. So we were just in a whole room, like it was a boardroom, and everyone was just sat around the room. It was really intimidating just because like there was a whole like panel of like people, employers who could potentially hire us. And they were just asking questions, like just telling us a bit about it. And then we went off into 2 different teams, and we just started to do our like presentations as well. And that was quite cool. So we actually had like a media pitch just to relate to the brands that like Dentsu already work with. So Moderator, for example, that was one of the ones that we put forward, and surprisingly worked on the account as well. And so that was like really good. And then we just had to present back our findings, and we just had to work together as a team. And after that, we had like almost a speed dating like session. So from all the different employers, they were asking us little quick questions, like nothing related to work actually. So they were like, what's your hobbies? What do you enjoy? And like, if you had like a media campaign, what would it be? So loads of different questions like that. And it was like 1 minute, so it went really quickly. So you couldn't really think back, oh, did I like ruin that question? Did I not think it through? And that was literally the end of the first stage. And after that, we heard back, and they told us to do a game, which they assessed us with. And I was so like confused. I was like, are you sure you want us to do a game? Like just play? And
on your phone as well?
Yeah, it was on our phone.
Yeah,
so I was just like block out like 2 hours, or I think it was an hour and a half just of your day, just to like block it out, and you're playing a game and you're being assessed, but you don't really know. So it's really interactive.
It's like Angry Birds,
but a lot more
you get lost in it.
Oh wow.
Yeah, so it's really cool. And we got the results back for that, so we can actually learn to see like what type of person we are.
What type of person are you?
I don't even remember now, it was so long ago, but I was thrown off. I was like, I don't want to do a maths test and look at my results. So it's like after GCSE or like A-level exams, I'm like, no, I don't want to look at this. And then the third stage was a escape room, and it was just so confusing. I was like, are you sure you want us to have fun? Like,
yes.
And
the rest
I
of
did
your
that
life.
actually. I went along to the escape room. We got lost, we couldn't get out.
no, that's funny.
Yeah, we lost one of the crucial bits to get out of the room, went down
They're
the back
really
of one of the
hard.
cupboards. Yeah,
They're really difficult.
yes, just got out before us.
But it goes back to show us, don't tell us.
Yeah.
You can
Yeah.
say whatever you want on your CV, but when you're in, you have to say like, will you stand up? Will you be a leader? Will you be collaborative? You know, will you
Exactly.
live by our values? And well, obviously you did. Yeah, cool.
Yeah, and just with the escape room, like I didn't realize until like we got in, like after the first room, I'm like, oh my god, they're watching us, and like I just realized it was actually like an assessment, but you can still have fun. But after that, like I was thinking at the end of the day, I'm like, at least I got to do an escape room, and then I got like a call back the next day saying that you got the job, and I'm like, so really
Amazing.
thrilled. But yeah, it was literally the most fun experience I've had, like in an interview stage. It's like really fun, and it just showed like how Dentsu is as a company. So they like just like actually admired us to like have all of these fun skills, and it's not just do an assessment day, like, and that's it. Like that's how you're judged. You're like seen through different like experiences that you have, different skills that you can showcase in different like settings as well.
Well, the logic there is, how do you get the best out of people? You don't stress them out. You put them in an environment where they can just be themselves. But also, as a high-performing or high-potential talent, you will probably have multiple companies that you can choose from. So how can we be different? How can we be innovative so that when you're considering your different options, you say, you know what, they treat me in a different way, or they gave me a game to play, how cool is that? I think I'm gonna go with them and see what my career could look like with them.
And you can gain a lot from it, can't you? So escape rooms would be like problem solving
100%.
and like teamwork. And so there's like so much to be gained still.
Thank you. So Will, you see things from a wider perspective and across many different industries. How are you seeing some of your partners use apprenticeships and other early careers initiatives to diversify and transform their business?
Absolutely. So we work, I guess, with around about 70 or 75 large employers in the UK. So they're typically FTSE 100 or FTSE 250, as you say, from different sectors. And one of the things that I've seen since I founded MyKindaFuture is that real shift from doing the right thing to doing the right thing, but actually this is driving the success of our business. And that is loud and clear on how all of our partners work. And you talked about it a little bit already around, diversity is a great thing and important, but also it improves productivity, it improves retention rates, and it improves success of the business. I think Burberry is a great example. I guess to some extent they're an ambitious company. They feel a bit like Dentsu actually in your kind of ambitions and wanting to be a thought leader. They're a terrific client, I guess, for us and
for us,
for you as
yeah.
well. They're an amazing company. And one of the things that's inspired me about both of you, I guess, but Burberry, is that the work that they're doing is innovative, but they are bringing the whole industry along with them. So they are a thought leader for that industry. They are a flag bearer. And I think that's a really important thing for those companies that are in that position, who have that influence and power, like Dentsu, like Burberry. And it's great to see people doing it. I guess another example of an employer in a completely different industry is Thales. They're an engineering company, a global company. And for them, it's around innovation. Diversity leads to better innovation and better customer success, client success for them. They're a hugely successful company already, but they recognize that unless they can actually carry on innovating, they're going to lose their position at the kind of top spot. And apprenticeships and bringing a more diverse workforce in through that route is their opportunity to stay ahead of the curve, stay commercially very successful, but at the same time reflect society actually. So it's a real win for them.
That's so very true, and that's one of the reasons why we want to champion diversity and inclusion so much, is because that's our commitment, like you said, to society, but also our clients expect this from us. We need to mirror the society so that the messages and the campaigns that we send out on behalf of our clients have that resonance and have that authenticity. So getting the right people in the room and make sure that their voices are heard.
Vital.
Alexis, please. So you as well, you work with a number of businesses.
Yeah.
And you are on the ground a lot of time. So in your experience and in your conversations with them, what are some of the main blockers that keep this diverse talent from thriving? and what can we do to make sure that that doesn't happen here at Dan?
For me, there's two pieces here, and you may disagree with this, Will. First one for me is advice and guidance in schools. So there's minimal funding for schools around this, which means there is inadequate advice and guidance for young people in those positions. So still pushing, from a school's point of view, the university route, not making them aware on an individual basis of what options there are available for them. So not just apprenticeships, it's then looking at what Huda's done and saying, well, actually, I would like to go in a completely different direction, but making it specific to those individuals. So I think this is one of the main blockers, because also it's changing that mindset and behaviours alongside that. So where you have got parents, you have got students that do think there is just that one pathway, it's making them aware of the different pathways and what opportunities are out there. The other one, I think, comes back to the apprenticeship levy. So where employers are still not utilising their levy or understanding fully what they can do with it. So as you say, I work across quite a number of sectors, not just the agencies. One of my clients who works in financial services, they're looking at the long-term impact of what is going on within that industry, and they're specifically using the apprenticeship to prepare the workforce for what's happening in the future. And this is all around the online banking. So they're making sure that they're using business analysis apprenticeships, software development, looking at the tech space and how they're utilising that to upskill their existing workforce through the use of the apprenticeship levy. So it's an amazing tool, and there's so much that you can do with it. It's not just bringing in fresh young talent, that creativity, it's looking at your existing members of staff as well, and the direction, the progression that's needed for the business.
I wish I could disagree, but I can't disagree with that. But I guess the only point I'd pick up there is that that I think the levy is a mechanism rather than a tool. The levy is a structure, and how you operate within that is an opportunity. And some companies are doing brilliantly, and others could do a lot more. Yeah. I just pick up on your question, Scott, and how we can support people through that process. And I think very often there is a lot of focus on getting people into a position, but actually if you improve or increase the diversity of those people, but then there's not enough support in the organisation, actually that can be lead to disaster, because they won't feel like they belong in that company. And something that we really try very hard on is that feeling of belonging. If you can support someone to feel like they belong to get into a company, and then when they're actually there, they still feel like they belong and they have relationships, then I think that's going to deliver real long-term success for employers commercially, but for those people from different backgrounds.
Yeah, it's well said. And you brought up Represent, which is the multicultural network that's launching this year.
Yeah.
Which is just one of the different ways of because obviously we have our other groups. And Proud, the One Network, the Wellbeing Network. Can you tell us a bit about Represent?
Yeah, sure. So actually, in my opinion, it's kind of long overdue, isn't it? And it's going to be a BAME network initiative to primarily help drive more BAME leadership, do programs, training, and then also I think it's important to just give the BAME community a voice, essentially, and it's giving them a safe space within Dan to express themselves, express their concerns, but then also push the BAME agenda forward, if that makes sense. Because at the moment, I think a lot of BAME voices get lost in the crowd, lost by the dominant voices, and I think Represent will just help facilitate a way for ethnic minorities to essentially come together, stand in solidarity, and push Dan forwards to a better future, essentially.
That sounds amazing.
It's really good. We're still brand new, so there's so much to look forward to in the future.
A lot of opportunity.
But it also feels overwhelming. There's so many directions to go in, but it's going to be great.
But it's that sense of finding your tribe, which is really important to belonging. When you come into a new business, who are my people? How do I get ahead of this? Who do I have lunch with? Even some of these things. And I remember when we first welcomed the cohort of apprentices, both MyKindaFuture and Arch were very educational of helping us structure it so that they weren't just launched into a business and said, right, good luck, but how do we provide a bit more structure than we usually did with early careers hires? Give them roots and then give them wings, and then just let them go off and explore the business and say, take your career where it takes you. Here's access to all the different people that might be of benefit to you. Up to you now to see what you do with it.
Scott, I love that. Give them roots and give them wings.
Yeah.
I mean, I might have to quote you when I say that, but I couldn't agree more. And I can feel that firsthand, that belonging piece, and giving people the support, whether it's in a network or whether it's not. And one of the ways that we've seen, I'm so excited, I guess, about is our mentoring platform, which allows people to have one-to-one mentoring from kind of perhaps peers or those people who are just, a year or two ahead of them. And that little bit of support, I think, provides the wings that you talked about, whether it's before they join or actually when they're in the organisation. Yeah.
So, Huda and Anisha, sort of a group question, please. Obviously, so we've talked about how diversity of thought is key to creating innovative solutions for our clients. What has Huda brought to the team or project that perhaps wasn't there before? What has she sparked?
Sure. So there's a couple of things actually. The first one is, I think, just by joining the workforce at quite a young age, which is a completely different world to what you'd probably known before, and where the rest of her peers would go to university. She's had to adapt really, really quickly, and so now, like 3-4 years later, like I can see that really, really shine through, because compared to maybe other peers her age, the way she handles stress, her people skills, her work ethic, it's really, really apparent. And I think that's just something to be said from like a few years of experience, and also just providing like valuable insight from when you're at your digital marketing agency from before Carat. And then also, I think, and I don't know if this is more embarrassing on my part, but because she's slightly younger, she actually uses all the different social platforms like Snapchat and TikTok, Instagram, whatever. And so as a social planner, she is the consumer. And so she provides really valuable insight to me, who I'm like, I don't really know what we should do with this, like with Snapchat, with this creative, and she can just answer that, and she can like problem solve.
Amazing.
And give recommendations, and just has a very different angle and lens of how we plan media, which I think has been really, really useful. So yeah.
Well, this is also
well done. Well done. There's another promotion for sure.
Yeah. The story that I loved hearing was Huda. She said, actually, my team. What did they say about you after having worked with them for over a year? That they couldn't believe you were.
They didn't even realise that I was an apprentice.
Oh, really?
You can't tell.
Credit.
You can't tell. Like
Credit,
technically, her role's junior, but she's not.
Sure.
She's not junior. She's not.
So I've like been working in that position for like the same time as anybody else would have been, but I'm also balancing like my whole apprenticeship side to it as well. So I usually do that behind the scenes, so I don't make it like I'm gonna just take out a whole day of like my workload and just do this. So I know to prioritize and like work around like what's like said for me to be doing. So I just like weave that around like you've just said, and just make it so that people don't think that my apprenticeship is a burden, and it's more like it actually brings more to the team than it actually takes away like their time for me to do the actual work that's set for me.
We were talking about some of the blockers, and sometimes we come up against line managers, line leaders, who say, I don't know if I have time to handle an apprentice. It seems like a lot of work, without realizing that person who's on an apprenticeship is constantly learning and developing. So they're getting obviously the internal development, but they're also receiving that really valuable external development and a wider perspective. Because when they go to the Arch classes, for example, or study weeks, they bring back with them, fresh ideas, but also they will interact and network with people at IBM, people, some of our other clients, and they bring all that back in constantly, time after time.
And I would say, funnily enough, there is a trend that we're starting to see now where young people are doing the apprenticeship scheme and they're actually upskilling higher than their line managers.
Awkward.
Yes.
No, it's great.
Yes, yeah.
But let that be maybe a bit of discomfort that has the line managers go, well, maybe I should do an apprenticeship
Yeah.
alongside
Nice.
you, or
It
something
pushes
like
everyone
that.
forward.
Yeah, it's
We can
amazing.
study together.
Yeah.
Yeah, like I know another apprentice on a different team, like her like team member is actually pursuing the apprenticeship that we're doing just because she's seen how like useful and how valuable it was bringing to her team. So for one of the other apprentices to be doing, and now she's attending the study week, she's coming towards to us saying, could you help me with these project works because you've done it before? So it's just like really like eye-opening to see like people coming to me, like people who are a higher position than me in the company who are coming to me for help, and I'm like, this is so different. Like you don't really expect to have that as well. Like, and it's just like really refreshing, like you said.
It's that
Just
sort of
to
flat
have that.
hierarchy structure
Exactly,
that we
and I
that
feel
we-
like we should always like just give back to each other as well. So like it's not like I'm just absorbing all this knowledge for myself. Like I'm always sharing back as well. Like I was teaching my like line manager, oh look, I'm doing this because it's a lot quicker, and he's like, oh my god, like that's so cool. Like I didn't even know you could do that, and he's like, thank you, you just changed my life. Like so many like little tricks because I'm more hands-on than he was because he has like more of an over like arching like position. So he just sees like the overall picture, and just me being hands-on, I can just share like all the little skills that I have, and that can be really useful to him. So I think that's just really good as well, just like sharing and not it just being one side. So like me learning from the line manager can be like the line manager learning like from me as well.
But it requires that sense of openness and willingness to say, well, you might technically be junior, but I know I have so much to learn from you. And that's the kind of line leader that we need at Dentsu, because that will enable us to use all of our people, all of their communal skills and intelligence and knowledge. So I say that's a definitely call to action for us to take away.
It's putting the ego aside.
Yeah.
Actually.
Absolutely. Relationships, strengthening relationships.
Yeah,
where you can
completely.
share knowledge.
Give and take. Yeah, exactly.
Gosh, this is fun. So we were talking a bit about the co-creation. So like Huda is one of the users of the platforms of the social media that you do. That's fantastic. It made me think of what we're doing with the code, which is sort of how we've branded our overall early careers approach. And it is involving the young people that we are trying to reach in the actual creation of the content and delivery of the program. Is going out and saying, does this sit with you? Does this engage you? Is this exciting? But then also inviting them to work on campaigns and briefs that our clients come to us with. Is saying, well, for example, we did one with WWF recently around sustainability, and these students absolutely loved it because it's never been more relevant, it's never been more urgent. And so for them to have their ideas, and for us to come to them and say, your ideas are important, we want to listen to them, and then we're actually going to take them away and with you make them happen. So I think there's this wonderful element of bringing people at all ages and
it's like very easy to get into a pattern after a few years of working, and you just think the same way, and everything's the same, and you chug out the same plans. And I think, it's very important to understand what the wider world actually is consuming and how they're behaving, which is our job essentially, is understanding how people behave. And like who better to do that than people who are actually living.
When our client teams go out into schools, they often, at the end of the day, go, I thought we were supposed to be teaching them. But they taught me so much. I've taken 3 pages of notes and I have so many new ideas. It's because they're not framed by anything, they're not restricted by anything. It's just untapped creativity. And creativity is what we do. It's what we give back to our clients. So there's so much more that we can do there, so much potential. So Will, back to you please. Speaking of the code, MyKindaFuture has been our key partner in developing the code. And now we're actually really proud that it's been selected to be one of 3 global programs. So started in the UK, but now is a global initiative. So USA, Canada, Bulgaria, Poland, China, Singapore, etc. Watch the space. So obviously it's Dentsu's most tangible commitment to diversity and inclusion. Lots of investment behind it. But what could we do to be even more innovative? Innovation has always been a key word for us. So what could we do?
I think it leads perfectly on to the point you're making. We have to continually be innovating ourselves, but also delivering innovations for our clients. Otherwise, we're going to stand still or fall behind even. And the code, was so ahead of its time when Dentsu launched it, and we're super proud that it launched here in the UK, and then has gone global. But we can never sit still, nor would we want to. We have to continually be innovating and improving, and certainly staying ahead of everyone else. That's one thing, but also delivering a great job. And I suppose in doing that, our approach is first of all, learn what you've done already, learn from the great stuff that's happened already, but equally reflect, okay, how could we have done something different? So that's part of it. And then growing as technology grows. You mentioned a couple of platforms that probably 3 years ago, TikTok was probably less well used, for example. So things change, and our capability as a partner has certainly changed. So I mentioned our digital mentoring platform, and we now have behavioural scientists working to support people from different backgrounds and that kind of thinking. But equally vital is to underpin the kind of commercial success of the code. The code is successful on so many fronts. It brings the team together at Dentsu. It brings, I guess, your clients and partners together behind a common purpose. But equally, it delivers a commercial benefit. And those early young people that started or had access to the code a couple of years ago are now entering the workforce with Dentsu. So it's actually a talent pipeline. And certainly we found that those people who have a route into work like that are probably more motivated, they're probably better retained and more innovative, ultimately driving client success. So looking ahead, we have to innovate, we learn what works really well and do more of it, and then leverage the technology, but always underpinned by, this has got to do good, but it's also got to deliver that commercial success as well.
Wonderful, thank you. We conducted a materiality assessment as part of a global social impact project. And one of the things that came through was well-being, so health and well-being, because people are constantly stressed. Life seems to be going faster and faster and faster. So one of the things that we thought that we could incorporate into the program was to pause in the middle of some of the workshops that we do and just take a minute just to breathe. Mindfulness meditation, which is becoming more and more prevalent, and thankfully in our society, which needs it. Would that sit well with, Huda, for example, if we sort of pause in the middle of the workday and just, just drop out of a while, would that be beneficial?
Yeah, I remember even having the Blue Monday in January actually, when they just bought puppies, drinks and everything.
Where was my invite?
And it was just really refreshing, just having that, even though we just came back to work after the Christmas break, it was just nice to have that time out of the day, just to go and just have fun, or just have that little breather away from work, just because we know how stressful work can get, and having that little break in between is just so beneficial, and it just helps you recharge so you can get back to work and actually put more energy into what you do. So you appreciate it more, the work that you do, and you actually put more energy into that. So it's just really useful, and it's just refreshing to have that little time away, just step away from your desk, just to have that time to just recharge and refresh.
We've done the same thing at AVADO, yeah. So we've only recently turned around and said that you can now start exercising in your lunch break, so you can take a little bit longer. And one of the advantages we have got is yoga on our 8th floor in our building, which is really good. So I actually tried it out a couple of weeks ago, and I must admit, I came back into the office, I was calmer, my whole posture, my shoulders were back, I was in a completely different mindset. So yeah, it's very empowering being able to do that.
And it's it's habit forming. If we take a break within the code or within workshops, and actually, help young people realise this is a good thing. It's not just good for the workplace; it's good for their whole well-being. And good mental health is just as important as good physical health. So actually, I think giving them that insight and setting kind of habits early, must be a good thing.
Because the program is designed around giving them the digital skills they need to thrive in the digital economy. But I think one of those as well could be knowing when to pause, reset. And so for them seeing that modeled by us, because you've come in and volunteered with me in schools, could be really beneficial for them to say, oh, okay, it's not just something that I may see on the news, see on the media, but these are people who, this is how they thrive at work, is they know when to pause, relax, and then go back in with the determination and focus.
I'm coming to your class, Scott.
Yeah.
Please,
You're the leader on this
Monday,
for sure.
every Monday,
Yeah.
let's do it. I guess this is for everyone, really. The theme for this year's National Apprenticeship Week was Look Beyond. So the question, please, is what do you hope our leaders will look beyond when they go forward?
For me, this is looking beyond just the apprenticeship. So looking at that opportunity for everyone as long-term, permanent, sustained employment. So it's not just looking at the duration of the apprenticeship, whether it's 15 months, 18 months, or 23 or 34. It's what's going to happen after that. It's working with that employer to make sure those individuals have the opportunity to progress with a long-term career with that employer.
Awesome.
And like just to add to that as well, like what I believe is like just looking beyond actually like their background as well. So loads of people have like a misinterpretation of like people who take apprenticeships are people who just failed out of school. But I had the opportunity to go into uni as well, but I chose not to. I chose a different path. And just having that like perception of apprenticeships being something like or university rather than big like and university, like just having that option to have as well, like you can do this as well as this, like is not eliminating one of the options, and it's just like helping like employers see like this is actually beneficial towards you as well, and just helping them look beyond like what else is out there instead of just saying I want a uni graduate like who hasn't got any experience, but I'm like over here like I'm trying to tell you I can actually do the work and build on my skills and just help the team as well as just like going into the role, like not shaming anybody else, but saying that there is a different like path that you can get into the workforce with. It's just saying that, look, you've got options. Don't just stick with the one thing that you're comfortable with, and it's just stepping them out of their comfort zone as well. So I think it's just, that's what I believe.
Yeah, and I think like very similar, but it's like looking beyond their existing knowledge of the world, and looking beyond what they know. Like old traditions are dying. I'm allowed to say traditions. Traditions are dying. People's attitudes are changing. Everything's changing way faster than we realised. And I think it's leaders' responsibility to not just follow this change, but they need to lead the change and facilitate this change as well. They need to be the ones who are like moving the world forward and like looking to different routes to employment and all that. But it's not just like following what everyone else is doing, essentially.
Well said. I mean, I think I'm well aligned. I think I'd say look beyond the status quo and look beyond preconceptions.
Yes.
And
challenge your unconscious bias.
Absolutely, and that will deliver a social purpose and it will deliver a commercial benefit.
Gosh, I mean, we're almost out of time. This is wonderful fun, but I guess just so that we can end on a really strong note, I guess the final question is, this year's International Women's Day campaign is centered around Each for Equal. If you could just share in a few lines what that means to each of you, please.
Okay, first. Okay, so I actually think it raises a really interesting question of responsibility and whose responsibility is it to enact change? And I think for like a long time, society has relied on, you know, ethnic minorities or the LGBTQ community or, you know, the oppressed gender to kind of educate the masses and drive change. But actually, especially in our industry, there's so much knowledge and information at our fingertips that that's not really an excuse anymore, and the responsibility like lies with everyone, and even more so probably with people who have the power to change things, and those who are in systematic positions of power as well. So yeah, I think it's basically saying every single one of us, even if you don't fall into one of these buckets, is responsible.
I agree with that. Actually, I think. I guess, you know, as a managing director of a small company, I feel one of my top priorities is around values and behaviours and making sure that underpins everything we do as an organisation. So first and foremost, I think culture of the organisation, if you get the culture wrong, then you're never going to deliver. And then I think it's around support and opportunity, allowing people to be the best version of themselves, to be themselves. And then finally, I'd say recognition of those people. That's what we try and do at MyKindaFuture.
I think it's also finding that balance, isn't it? So making sure, regardless of gender, that everybody has the opportunity, but also I think the key thing is the choice. Being able to make your own choices and then having those available to you. I mean, we've still got a distance to travel where it comes to behaviours and mindset around this, but collectively, International Women's Day is a reminder for that, for us to make a positive change, to be able to impact those mindsets and behaviours.
Yeah, and just to add to that as well, is just like being that leader figure as well, like just offering that support system, like sharing the same opportunities like with everybody, and just all of the different like systems that they can actually get to those opportunities, like not having the same, everyone is the same approach as well, just like understanding that people are different and we need to tailor those opportunities around for everybody as well, and just having the same like effects. Like, I know it sounds really cliche, but it's just like also just saying treat everyone the way you'd like to be treated as well. So not like going around and saying that I'm going to give someone special treatment. It's just like it's very straightforward to say as well. Like it's really good to have that opportunity just to share everything around with the network of women around the business, as well as like what Alexis said, and not just focusing on women as well, like bringing in the men and just have that collective thought process as well, just through that.
Yeah, very good point. There's the element of intersectionality as well as, yes, today we're speaking about International Women's Day, but there are so many other groups as well. And to involve all of those people in the discussion and ensure that we are championing them. And we can create our own microcultures, and that's an incredible thing. You don't need to only look to leadership. You can be the leader that you expect others to be, and then let them be inspired by you, which
you will influence the rest of the organisation.
Correct. Yes. So thank you all again, really, so much for your time, your insights. I wish we had 3 more hours, but well. And thank you to everyone for tuning in and joining us today. I hope some of the things you've heard have maybe sparked you to action. Thank you for your time. Thank you for the questions you sent through. And have a great International Women's Day, and let's keep the conversation going. Continue to follow us on #OnBrand and all of our Dentsu Aegis channels.